So sometimes we watch videos like that, and you go, wow, it's so weird, right? It's so weird that there's all these people out there that don't have internet, that doesn't have a computer, right? But the reality is, it's actually us that's the weird ones, right? We're actually the minority here. Right? It's so strange how, like, about 50%, I know the video didn't say it, but 50% of the people in the whole entire world, they live off of $2. And we go, that's so weird. How do people live like that? No. What's more weird is us who live off of so much more than that. Okay? We're the weird ones here. Do you guys know that rest of the world, a lot of people in the world, they look at us and they go, wow, they are filthy, filthy rich. They're super, duper rich. So I don't know what's more weird. I don't know if this is weird, that there's so many people who are poor, or it's weird that we don't think we're rich. I don't know what's more weird. Because imagine, put yourself in their shoes. Okay? Imagine you only make $2 a day, and that's all you live off of. And you meet somebody that makes 50 or 100 times more than you, and they complain about money. Okay, that's weird. So, here. This is $2. Okay, this is $2 right here. This is $2. This is how much they spend a day. 50% of the world. This is how much they spend. Okay, I'll show you guys something. I saw this from internet. Here. Okay, here. Okay? So for you guys are not going to go home and be like, dude, guess what Kirin did? He threw out $2 bills. That's so... None of you guys are going to do that. Okay? None of you guys are coming forward and trying to reach out. But rest of the world, if they saw that, they would go, oh my goodness. What a crazy guy. What is he doing? Why is he throwing out that amount of money? Now, if I threw out maybe $200 bills, maybe some of you guys wouldn't be sitting down right there. Maybe some of you guys would have been standing up. We would have had a riot maybe. But $2, it means nothing to us. What does that tell you? Again, that tells you all of you guys, including me, all of you guys, we're super duper rich. Okay? We don't feel rich, and we're going to talk about today why we don't feel rich. But all of us are super duper rich. And I'm not even talking about some of you guys who make six figures. No, I'm talking about every single one of you sitting in this room. Compared to the world, okay, by world standard, all of us are really, really rich. And that's why we started the series, right? If you could turn off the computer sound. So we said how to be rich. This is our series. And a lot of people, they saw this and they go, ooh, he's going to teach us how to make more money. But that's actually not the case. Again, why? Because all of us are already rich. We have to be good at being rich. Why? Because just because you have money, that doesn't mean that you're good at it. Okay? But people think the more money you have, the better you're at it. But that's actually not the case at all. Okay? Just because you have 5 phones, that doesn't mean that you're really good at working on your phones. Okay? Go to the Korean side. Okay? All of them, they have a hard time going over their phones. Okay? Just because you have one, doesn't mean you're good at it. Same thing with money. Just because we have money, that doesn't mean that we're good at money. Because a lot of times, what happens, and we talked about this 2 weeks ago, a lot of times money makes us arrogant, and money gives us a sense of security. And we talked about how that ruins us. Okay? So we're going over, okay, how to be good, or how to be properly good at being rich. Again, why? Because all of us are super duper rich. And I know you guys don't feel that way. Okay, and we're going to talk about why. Today's verse will come from 1 Timothy chapter 6, 3 through 11. This is the word of God. If anyone teaches a different doctrine, and does not agree with the sound words of our Lord Jesus Christ, and the teaching that's according with godliness, he is puffed up with conceit, and understands nothing. He has an unhealthy craving for controversy and for quarrels about words, which produce envy, dissension, slander, evil suspicion, and constant friction among people who are depraved in mind and depraved of the truth. But godliness with contentment is great gain. For we brought nothing into the world, and we cannot take anything out of the world. But if we have food and clothing, with these we will be content. But those who desire to be rich fall into temptation, into a snare, into many senseless and harmful desires that plunge people into ruin and destruction. For the love of money is a root of all kinds of evil. It is through this craving that some have wandered away from the faith and pierced themselves with many pangs. But as for you, O men and women of God, these things, flee from these things. Pursue righteousness, godliness, faith, love, steadfastness, gentleness. Fight the good fight of the faith. And this is the word of God. The first thing that we see right away, okay, and the reason why we don't feel rich, even though we are super duper rich, is because the text tells us money is a trap. The reason why we don't feel rich is because money is a trap. Now, we have to understand, money itself, we talked about, the Bible doesn't say anything negative about it. It's actually love of money. Okay? Love of money. That's what gets us. Okay? Money itself, it's like anything else. It's a useful tool. We can use it to serve people. We can use it for God. We can even use it for ourselves, and that's fine. But love of money. Okay? Now, why is this important? Because what that tells you is whether you have money or not, you're still plagued. Okay? Desire for money, whether you have it or whether you don't have money, it's still a plague. It's still a trap. So some of you guys, you still might be thinking, I don't have that much money, and so this sermon doesn't really pertain to me. Absolutely not. Because if you desire money, if you want more money, that's the trap. Okay? So again, I told you guys from the beginning, we watched the video, that tells you you guys are filthy rich, but hey, maybe you think, no, I'm still not rich. Doesn't matter. Okay? Even if you don't have money, fine. This is for you still. If you desire money. Now, what kind of things does it say? It says it's a trap. Okay, money or the desire or greed is a trap. Now, this word trap, it's actually the Greek word that is used to catch birds. Okay, that's the device that they're using. So it's hidden. It's not like out in the open. And so you don't know that you're getting trapped. And that's how money is. That's how greed is. It continues on. It turns into many foolish. And this word foolish, it's talking about how you are deceived. That you don't know what's going on. So you not only are you trapped, but you don't even know what's going on. And that's why a lot of times, even though we are rich, we don't feel rich. Why? Because you are in a trap and you are deceived. You are like a foolish person. Last part, it's talking about harmful desires. This is really talking about this inordinate, excessive desire that we have over money. Okay? So even though we have money, we get into this trap. We don't realize it. And because of that, that destroys us. This is what the text is saying. Okay, now, why don't we feel rich even though we have money? Couple of things. This word harmful desires, it's really talking about addiction. Okay? Where you want more and more and more. I mean, desire itself is not a bad thing, right? It's the harmful, it's the excessive desire. That's what addiction really is. Now, you guys are all aware because all of you guys are some kind of addict in one form or another. All of you guys understand. Now, if you're addicted to something, what happens? You take something and you want more. That's a dangerous part about addiction, right? Addiction, it builds what? Tolerance. So what happens? You had this much, and that's not enough for you the next time. You want more. And next time, that's not even enough. What happens? You want more again. Okay, this is one of the reasons why we don't feel rich. Why? Do you guys remember when you guys just got, okay, some of you guys are still in college, and some of you guys haven't even gone into college, but do you guys remember your first job that you got? Okay, like maybe you got out of, finally you got out of all the schooling, and you finally had your first job. And what do? You start buying stuff. Okay, but the stuff that you buy, those are called not necessities, but luxuries. Why? Because you were able to do without them for a long period of time. You did fine without them. But what happens? You start making money. And so you start buying stuff. So necessities actually becomes, luxuries start become necessities. And when luxuries become, I keep messing around. When luxuries become necessity, you can't do without them. Right? You have to keep going up and up and up and up and up, just like an addict with tolerance building up. That's why, one of the reasons why we don't feel rich is because of that tolerance. Because now, luxuries have become necessities for us. There are so many things in our life that we didn't need, and we did fine without. But now, we have to have them. Now, we can't live without them. You see why it's a trap. You see why we're deceived. Because everything that we think we need, actually we don't. There's so many things that we actually don't need. But now, it has become necessities for us. Second thing, as you make more and more money, okay, and some of you guys who haven't made money yet, you guys might not understand, but as you make more and more money, you start hanging out with people in that same social class. Okay? Maybe your coworkers. Okay? And so what happens? You start hanging out with richer people. So all of us, whether we like it or not, we view ourselves in a certain social bracket. What happens? We go into a certain social bracket, and what happens is, even within that social bracket, there's always someone who's more rich than us. So what do? We go, this person is so rich. I don't have this thing that this person has. I need to get it. And so what happens? Again, we go into this rat race. We go, I need this, I need this, I need this. And that's why so many times we're strapped for money. We're like, where's all my money going? Right? I never have enough money. Why? Because we're always spending. We're always buying. We always need more. Why? There's always someone more rich than you in your social bracket. And because of that, we never feel rich, even though we are extremely, extremely rich. We never feel rich. And that's why Paul here is saying, so many Christians are getting into this trap. So many of them are foolish. So many of them don't realize that this is a harmful desire. That this is going to destroy them. This is really scary, isn't it? In Luke 12:15, I quoted this 2 weeks ago. Jesus says this, "Watch out, be on guard against all kind of greed. Life does not consist in an abundance of possession." Right? Jesus says, watch out. Watch out against this kind of greed. Okay? Why? Why is Jesus saying this? Because nobody thinks, okay, none of us in this room, including myself, none of us think we have a problem with greed. Okay? Those people on the news making $1 million, okay, and they like do some stuff with their company, they're the greedy ones. But me, no, I'm not even that rich. I'm just trying to make a little bit more money. I'm trying to support my family. Okay? None of us think that we're greedy. Okay. I have a lot of different people. Okay, I mean, I've been pastor only for altogether maybe 3-4 years. But I talk to a lot of people. And a lot of people, they share like their deepest secrets with me, like problems with me. Okay? So it always ranges, right? Like lust, anger, pride, meaninglessness. I mean, whole range of things. But nobody has ever come up to me and say, "Gideon, I have a problem with greed. I have a problem with money. I have a problem with spending." Nobody does that. I'm pretty sure if I talk to senior pastor, he's going to say the same exact thing. Why? Because again, we don't think we're greedy. We don't think we love money. Why? Because again, it's a trap. You're deceived. You guys are all addicts, including myself. Again, you don't have to be rich to be an addict. Okay? Just the desire for it, that itself, that will destroy you. Tim Keller, he's one of my favorite pastors these days. He talked about how he gave a series on the 7 deadly sins, and one of them is greed. And he said that was the lowest attending. Okay? Nobody came to that. Why? Not because nobody wants to hear about it, but nobody thinks they have a problem with greed. They go, "That's not for me. I got maybe anger issues. Maybe I eat too much. But greed, no, I don't have a problem with that." So again, this is why Jesus says, watch out. This is why it's so subtle. You see, greed is so subtle in our society where we make 100 times more than rest of this world, and we go, "Oh, dude, I got to get more money." Okay, people look at us and they go, "You guys are crazy." We're addicts. We're in this trap. We're foolish. And that's going to destroy us. That's why Jesus is saying continually over and over and over again, watch out. Do you guys know that Jesus talks about money more than hell, heaven, okay, anger, lust combined? Okay? We just skip over those things again because we go, "I'm not rich. I don't have a problem with greed." But Jesus talks about it again and again and again. Why? Because we have a problem. Money will poison your life by its presence or its absence. And that's a scary thing. You don't need money to poison your life. Even if you don't have any money or a lot of money, again, the desire for money, the greed, that will get to you. How do we escape this? Okay? What do we do? All of us, we have a problem. All of us are addicts. What do we do now? He tells us. Contentment. Find contentment. We are brought with nothing into the world, and we can take nothing out of it. But if we have food and clothing, and all of us in this room, we do. We have abundance of it, and we have problems. We come to church late because we have abundance of it, and we don't know what clothes to choose. Okay? That's our problem. If we have food and clothing, be content with that. I read this when I was at PUC about 10 years ago in the bathroom, and there's like all this graffiti. And one of the things I still actually remember, it was like one of the coolest lines ever. It said this, it said, the more you have, the more you want. Right? And that's what we've been talking about. We're addicts. We're rich. We just want more money. The more you have, the more you want. But the more you want, the more you forget about what you have. I read that in college. That was like 12 years ago. I still remember that because I was like, oh, that's so true. Why are we not content? Why are we not happy? Why? Because we always want more. We're never content. So what is this contentment? Now, it talks about it. Okay? Great contentment or godliness with contentment is great gain. Okay? You have to understand the only way you will be content is if you realize you have great gain. Now, what is this great gain talking about? This is talking about a lot of wealth. Now, obviously, this is not talking about money, but this is talking about Jesus. This is what John Edwards says. And he said, this is how we can find contentment in Jesus. This is what he says. He says three things. He actually wrote this when he was 17 years old. But this is what he said. He said, number one, the reason why you can find contentment in Jesus, how Jesus will become your treasure, he says three things. Number one, your bad things will turn out for good. And Romans 8, it talks about how all these things, God will bring goodness out of the situations, even our mistakes and our flaws. So all bad things will turn out for good. Number two, your good things will never be taken away from you. Okay? Jesus will never be taken away from you, no matter what you do. You can walk away from Jesus, but Jesus will never leave you. That's the greatest treasure that we have. Number one, your bad things will turn out for good. Number two, your good things will never be taken away from you. And number three, the best is yet to come. You think this is good? You think this world is good? You think your house is good right now? You think your family is great? You think your career is good right now? Wait until you see. Wait until you get to heaven. This is how we find contentment. Through Jesus. This is what Paul says. This is why he can say this. He said, I'm not saying this because I am in need. For I have learned to be content whatever the circumstances. So he's not saying, oh, I'm happy or I'm content because I have all this stuff. No. That's not why I am content. I know what it is to be in need. I know what it is to have plenty. I have learned the secret of being content in any and every situation, whether well-fed or hungry, whether living in plenty or in want. Do you see what he's saying? He's saying circumstances doesn't change my contentment. And this is why riches, we talked about it 2 weeks ago, why riches, it gives us false security, and a lot of times because of false security, our moods go up and down based on our bank account, right? I told you guys, remember, I used to look at I still do actually. But I look at my phone, I look at the bank app, and then I see a lot of money, I smile. Like, I don't know that I'm doing it, but I'm smiling. And then if I don't see a lot of money, I'll go, how come this person, again, my mood always changes. Why? Because my hope is in money. And what happens is our happiness, our joy, it is changed by circumstances. Okay, if Wall Street is doing great, what happens? Woo! Diverse portfolio, woo! Okay? This is what happens. But don't you want this attitude? Don't you want this character where no matter what happens in your life, okay, no matter, even if your spouse or your kids are having a bad day, that you can still have inner peace, that you can smile in the storm? That's what we want, isn't it? And that's what Paul is saying here. He's saying, I can find contentment No matter what situation. I've been hungry before. I've been full. But it doesn't matter. Circumstances will not change my contentment. I will find contentment in Jesus alone. And this is what he says. And you guys are all very familiar with this, but you guys quote it in a very out of context. I can do all things through him who gives me strength. You guys have heard this before. Okay? Why is he saying this? He's saying I can do anything. Not in the sense of, hey, God's going to help me so I can do whatever I want. No, what he's trying to say is in all circumstances, whatever happens, whether Wall Street goes up and down, whether I lose a job or a limb, whether my kids are going crazy or not, I can find contentment. So what he's really trying to say is, I can find contentment through Jesus. Not in circumstances, not in people, not in money. I will find contentment in Jesus. I can smile at the storm. My mood will not be changed by how much money I have in the bank. And this is what the Bible is telling us. We need to find contentment in Jesus. Now, how do we do this? How do we do this? 2 steps, it tells us. Number 1, again, he says, I learned. Okay? It's not like something I just came to. Okay? It's not something, okay, you go, all right, Kirin talked about being contentment. I'm going to go outside now. I'm going to be content. No, it's something you have to learn. He says, I've learned the secret. So what do? Well, it's with all addiction. Number 1, we have to acknowledge it. And this is probably the hardest part. This is probably the hardest part for me. Because I still really don't feel rich. Because I still keep thinking I need to accumulate more. Why? Because we talked about it. It's a trap. We're deceived. So we have to acknowledge we got problems. We have problems with money. Okay? And that's what it tells you, right? You go to Alcoholics Anonymous or any kind of addiction groups, first thing you have to do, admit. Okay? Acknowledge that you're an addict. Number 2, it tells us in verse 11, it says, again, another thing we have to understand is they tell us when you take something out, like an addictive behavior or something, substance or whatever, you can't just leave it out and do nothing. You have to place it with something else. So it tells us, man of God, flee from all this greed. So it tells us, get rid of this. But instead, it doesn't just tell you, okay, just stop and do nothing. No, instead, pursue something else. Pursue righteousness, godliness, faith, love, endurance, gentleness. It says fight. We always have this drive to strive after something. Great. The thing is, we put all of our energy into money. The Bible tells us, no, that's going to destroy you. Instead, pursue after these things. And this is what you guys want anyways. Don't you guys want to be a man and woman of faith, of love, of gentleness? And no one wakes up in the morning and says, okay, I'm going to be really rude today. I'm going to yell at my kids today. I'm going to yell at my classmates. No, we don't do that. We wake up and we think, oh man, why can't I love more? Why can't I have more inner peace? We have to pursue that. We have to pursue the one who gives us these things. It is only Jesus. Now, let me take you to another level, okay? And this is going to really help us. And this is going to give us the clue, okay? We were brought with nothing into the world, and we can take nothing out of it. Basically, it's telling us we're naked. We're born naked, we're going to die naked. Okay, pretty simple enough. This is referring to Genesis chapter 3. Why? Because Adam and Eve, before they sinned, they were naked. They knew they were naked. But what happened? They were not shameful. They were okay with the nakedness. But what happens after sin enters into the world? They have to start covering it up. They feel shame. They feel emptiness. Okay? We talked about this 2 weeks ago, but this is basically If you look at all of the sins, all the problems we have, it really comes back to this. Okay? We feel this emptiness because we're separated from God. And so everything that we're trying to do is fill up this gap. Fill up this emptiness. We're trying to clothe ourselves somehow. That's what Adam and Eve did, right? They got their leaves and they were trying to hide themselves. Why? Because they feel shameful. They feel empty. They feel like people are going to exploit them if they don't. And that's exactly how we feel. Okay? So money or greed is just a superficial layer. Do you know what's underneath? It's actually power. It's actually control. It's actually comfort. These are the things that we're really seeking for. We just use money to try to accomplish that. And that's why, and this is really important, that's why greediness takes so many different forms. Now, you guys are probably thinking greediness as someone who's like, buying cars here and there, they're buying this bag and this, and they're like showing it off. No, that's actually one form of greediness. Another form is they accumulate, and they just put it in the bank. Why? Because they feel like they're in control. Even though they're not extravagantly spending, it's not for a show. It's not for acceptance. For those people who are accepting and they're spending and they want to show off, they really want acceptance. They really want to be loved. They want to show to the world, I'm worth something. But people who they save it up, what they really want is control. No matter what happens in life, I'm still in control. I look at my bank account and I feel okay. What we really, really deep down inside, what we all desire is love, acceptance, security. These are all things that all of us are longing for because we have been stripped. We are naked. We realize that this world is not going to give us what we need. Where do we get the motivation to do this? This is my favorite verse. Genesis 3. And the Lord God made for Adam and for his wife garments of skins and clothed them. This is the greatest verse. This is my favorite verse. God says, what are you doing? I will clothe you. You know why this is so powerful? This is so powerful. Because where did God get the skin from? Okay? Where do you think he got it from? You think a deer just passed by? Whoo, take my skin. No. What that tells you is there was death. There was a sacrifice. And we know that this is referring to Jesus. Do you understand that Jesus is the only one who can fully clothe you? Jesus is the only one who can fill up that emptiness. Whether it's acceptance, whether it's security, it's only Jesus who has the power to clothe you. Jesus is the answer. Jesus is the answer to the deepest answer in your heart. It's not money, not power, not sex, not career, not people. Jesus is the only one. The only way we can fully get out of this greed, this trap, is to recognize that Jesus is the answer. So, last 2 weeks ago, I gave you guys something for your phones to help you guys remember. And so today I made another one for you guys. It's going to be this. Can you guys read it? Okay. It's going to be, greed brings enchantment. Okay? It's going to deceive you. But Jesus brings contentment. Okay? Let's all say it together. 1, 2, 3. Greed brings enchantment. Jesus brings contentment. You see, it rhymes. You guys see that? Huh? This is what I do, okay? This is what I do. We're going to go into our time of reflection, and I want you guys to really think about Okay? Is money really taking over my life? Is love of money controlling me? What does God want me to do? Am I finding my hope and my love from God? Take this time to hear God's voice.